Hello, listener, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Keeping Up Appearances podcast, full of opinion, debate, and football trivia with a hint of nostalgia. I'm Callum Murray, and here with me is
Sean O'Hara,
Bob Gall, and Michael Tosh.
They say not to judge a book by its cover, but we might judge a player by their appearance. Let's get into it.
It's Carney, what's he going to do? Ready! Ready! Oh, yeah!
Shall we do the opening?
Yeah, go on.
So then we're back with the latest episode of Keeping Up Appearances. We are just back to the usual squad today. No special guests, but plenty of special content, I'm sure. I think we'll start by having a quick word on the Manchester derby. Anyone watch it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was similar to what we said last week, wasn't it? Expected Man City to win comfortably. I think most of us think we all had City to win. I think Bob might have thought a sneaky United one, but I think we thought if City got in the groove, they'd win comfortably, and I think they just showed. Apart from United, I think spell at the start and at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, you've seen that City were just leagues apart, really, aren't they? Just such a different level, and you just get the impression they could have scored a lot more if they'd wanted to. They were just taking it easy. It was just quite embarrassing for Man United towards the end, how they were just walking through them whenever they wanted, really.
City looked very strong. Good to see Grealish back as well. I thought he had a good game. Foden was on form, wasn't he? And then, just some of the football between Foden and Grealish and Silva, some of the sort of passages of play they had were just incredible. I think I think we all kind of said it. I think we didn't think it was going to be maybe so open wide. I think maybe I said 3-1.
I did.
But did you say 3-0?
Difference of 3.
All right, okay. Well, you win then. There's one goal difference if you win. I thought City looked impressive. I think it was just a bad day all round for Man United, to be honest. They had a couple of chances, but not great for them.
How long do you reckon he's got left? Ten Hag to be.
I mean, what's doing my head in is everywhere you go on, like if you listen to like Gary Neville or anything, no, it's like it's not his fault. It's always like they're just blaming the Glazers, and you think it is his fault. Like, might not be totally his fault, but he's not getting a tune out of very good footballers. So something's got to give, especially when you think like, well, at least when he got the job, he had the reputation of being like one of the best young coaches in the world. Not even like a manager, a typical manager, like a coach.
Yeah.
You watch this United team, and he just look absent of anything. They don't seem to have any idea of how they're meant to be playing, any systems they're meant to be playing. And I just think that has got to come to a point, in my opinion, where they do need to be thinking about it, because it's just not working at the minute.
I think on what you said there, Sean, I think you nailed the head about like developing players. When he came to United, you thought like he had that Ajax team, he makes them better. When you think of Klopp and Pep, you think that he's made them better. Like, how many people would you say Ten Hag's actually made look better? You know, they sign these people for lots of money, and you say none of them. You know, like Rashford, we mentioned it last week. Rashford just looks half the player he was last year, and just.
Yeah, but Ten Hag was manager last year.
I know, but I'm saying
and he looked great last year while he was in charge. So
that's true, but he's getting.
I don't know whether that's on. Yeah.
I think they'll give him time. I think he's there as a bit of a long-term project. But I'm with Sean. It's not getting better, is it? It's getting worse.
Yeah, I think, there's a bit of formatted players coming over, but maybe just the Dutch league is just completely different to the Premier League. If you know what I mean? Maybe they're just having good form in the Dutch league. Maybe it just doesn't translate too well to the Premier League. Obviously, it's not the most competitive in the world. Manager of Ajax, obviously, they're doing rubbish this season, but really, how hard would his job have been at Ajax? Coaching maybe good players, bringing young players through. Not many stars. Maybe just not very good at managing stars and managing sort of big names and big egos and stuff. Maybe just not that great at that.
That's what I was going to say, to be fair, Cam, because I think obviously the Ronaldo. I think he dealt with the Ronaldo stuff quite well, because that had potential to massively undermine him. But then you look at like Sancho, for example, who, like, say what you want, he's obviously very talented. You can tell that players like Sancho just don't respect Ten Hag. Like, he's been playing with the kids, or he's been totally exiled from the team, and Ten Hag's just waiting for an apology off Sancho, and Sancho's just not giving him it. It's just like, I imagine, like, under Fergie, you think years later, oh, this happened in the dressing room, this happened. Now, everything that happens at United, it's all over social media. It's just an absolute circus, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as you said before, Sean, about him being a good coach, maybe he's a good coach, but maybe he's not a good manager.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a good coach in that, even though they're maybe not showing it on the pitch. But I think like Eddie Howe's a great coach, as Tosh mentioned before. But I think he's probably a good manager as well. Like, you've seen what he's done for Anthony Gordon. It's been like insane. He's like transformed him completely as a better player. But also, I think the way he managed him in the game where he brought him back off. He's Anthony Gordon now. He'll run through a brick wall for him. So I think you've got to be a good coach and a good manager nowadays at the top level. I think you might be able to get by being a good manager, but I don't think you can get by just being a good coach. I don't think, the top managers now, they've got like the management side of it, and that's sort of the people skills and stuff and that man management. But then you've also got the coaching to back it up. Maybe Ten Hag just isn't great at managing, especially the egos and the big players. Maybe easier to go and manage these young players at Ajax coming through and sort of make someone a decent level and get sold on. Maybe it's just different at Man United. But yeah, I don't know. You'd like to see him given time, but usually managers don't get given that much time these days. And once this sort of part takeover comes through and they take over the football side, and I think he's bringing in Brailsford as well, isn't he? I think who's that Team Sky. I mean, I've got a feeling that they just might do something completely offhand and completely like rip up the plans kind of thing and do something a bit sort of out of the box.
But again, they've had, haven't they? You think since Sir Alex left, they've had Mourinho and Van Gaal, and they're people who, they aren't like, Mourinho's more of a sort of manager and he can manage the big characters. He had nothing. I'm with Sean a bit. It does find ridiculous that everything goes back to the Glazers, but there is sort of inherent problems there, isn't there? That they just, every now and again, they put the list of signings up and you just think, God, like none of them have been successful. Like you look at them, they put it on Sky on Sunday after the match, and even just the ones under Ten Hag, like the money they spend, just a staggering amount of money, and you can't really say any of them have been a massive success. I was listening to something yesterday, and someone said it was a podcast, and it said something like, what was the last good like actual midfielder Man United signed? But like an actual, and someone said he said he'd researched and he thought it was Michael Carrick. That was like 2007. I'm sure there's probably someone else there, but that's just like shocking recruitment. When you think of like teams like Man City and Liverpool, how often do they actually miss when they sign people? Like even like this fella Liverpool have signed, which Slobbers Lie or whatever his name is. I'd never even heard of him. They go out, they do the business early, they've signed him, and he's looking pretty good. United spend all summer chasing. Last summer in particular, I didn't know they were chasing De Jong and people like that, and then they just end up with someone at a stopgap. They sign Amrabat on the last day, and it just screams of a club just with no real direction. And as you say, Callum, maybe these new people who come in might change that, but I think it needs a lot of change.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it does need a lot of change. Obviously, there's no direction. The whole club's in a mess. I know, obviously, Ten Hag deserves some blame for what's going on the pitch, but I think that in terms of that like club culture, I think that probably does go back to the Glazers and just, I mean, it's similar to what we've seen at Everton, isn't it? It's just, there seems to be a culture there of just it going a bit down the pan. And obviously, I know it was a long time ago now that Sir Alex Ferguson left, but they just have 26 years, whatever it was, of stability to then just be thrown into chaos. I just don't think they ever appointed the right man at the right time. And I think they're just still like suffering for that, aren't they? But listen, it's one of those where like, obviously they've got the power behind them and they've still got the name that if they were to just make the right appointments and start to get things right, it might be an upward sort of curve as much as a downward curve, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're ever that far away, are they? Someone like Man United, even last year, like they have one positive bit of spell and then they win a cup and then they finish in the top four. And I think they're probably never as far away. Someone like Man United, likewise, Liverpool probably never were, when they have a bit of a drop and things like that. Big clubs like that tend not to be.
Possibly, Ten Hag and the Man United fans will be hoping that a comeback is on for their club. And on that note, I think we'll go over to this week's version of Marooned 5. And I'll let Tosh introduce the topic.
So we'll start with a recap of last week. So you might remember, and thank you to those that all have voted, we looked at football and families. So the winner was
Alan Whittle.
Alan Whittle just missed out. And it was Bobby Charlton and Jack Charlton this week who were the winners. A bit unsurprisingly, I think I'm getting a bit of stick for always picking the most obvious ones. So they were the winners. So the Charltons will be going to the island to stick it out together. I'm sure they'll be delighted, famously not getting on too well. This week, we're going to do, as Callum alluded to, one to do with comebacks. The reason we're doing that is because one of the fixtures this week is Newcastle Arsenal. And when you think of that fixture, you might think of Dennis Bergkamp spinning Nicolas Dabazas to score a great goal. The other thing you think of is Newcastle coming from 4-0 down at half-time to come back and draw 4-4. So that's going to be our obvious pick, and the rest of us are all going to pick a comeback that springs to mind for us. Anyone got any comments on the 4-4 that we made quickly? Anyone that remember that game? Anyone sort of any comments to make of that as a comeback?
I only really remember the last goal because it was an absolute belter, wasn't it?
TOT, rest in peace.
was it?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the same day we beat Blackpool 5-3?
John, I was going to ask that as a quiz question.
Ah, sorry, Tosh.
Still ask it.
I was that popped into my head as well. I just checked it just before it was, because I was going to say we were probably all not watching it. Well, it was that Saturday 3 o'clock. So yeah, Everton come back as well. I think we came back from 3-2 to win 5-3.
It was a mate of ours, 18th, and I remember we were at a house party, and normally at a house party no one's watching Match of the Day, but it was like you couldn't miss those two games. But Everton will probably have been the big focus. But obviously that was just unbelievable, that Tiote goal.
Now, I sort of remember it, obviously when you're in the ground and Everton's an 8-goal game as well, and you're seeing it as it comes in, you knew Arsenal will get winning 4-0. It flashes, you sometimes flash the scores up, and then when it 4-0, you sort of thought, oh God, we're going to be second in Match of the Day. Because I think did Sahar score 4 for Everton? Remember Sahar scored 4?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And again, a lovely Jermaine Beckford volley, if I remember rightly, and over Baines puts a ball over his shoulder. One time Baines did something good for Everton, put a good ball in, and we scored, yeah. But yeah, I think everyone remembers that Tiote goal, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
You went off then, Tosh?
You muted yourself?
He didn't. I muted him for Baines slander.
That was golden content, that, Bob. He was about to go viral then.
I have no idea what I was saying there. So. Just ended after the Baines comments.
Sorry, Sosh.
Is anyone going to say, or do we just move it on?
Yeah, let's move it on.
Bob sends through me. Okay, then. So the fifth. God, I was going to say the fifth member. Let's start that again. That was Bob's fault for muting me. I haven't recovered since the muting there.
His head's gone here. Let's see if he can come back from this.
Ooh, I like it.
So coming back to the main topic then, that's our fifth member of the game, Newcastle Arsenal. So let's see what everyone else is going to offer as their suggestion to be Marooned 5. Anyone want to go first?
Nominate someone, Tosh.
I nominate Sean.
Okay, that can be done. I'd say probably differently to the others, maybe Callum to a lesser extent, because Callum's done a bit of outside the box thinking, but maybe to a lesser extent than Bob and Tosh. My pick for this week is a bit of an underdog story more than a big name game. Often we think of comebacks, we think of big ones in maybe Champions League finals or Champions Leagues, things like that. Whereas I've gone back to the 5th round of the FA Cup in 2001. And the reason I remember this game, when we decided we were going to do comebacks, this one came straight to me because the team in question, the team that produced the comeback in the round previous, had actually spanked Everton 3-0 at Goodison Park. So it was a game that always kind of stuck in my head.
I was there.
And then the team I'm talking about is Tranmere Rovers, who after beating Everton 3-0 got a home. No, they actually got an away tie at Southampton in the 5th round. Drew 0-0 in the first leg, and then got the replay at Tranmere, which most probably thought was a bit of a foregone conclusion, as in easy Southampton win there. And if you looked at the score at half time, you'd say that it was, because they got absolutely battered by all accounts. I've rewatched highlights and it doesn't give much away, but reading match reports and things, it looks like Southampton absolutely battered Tranmere. But Tranmere 3-0 down at half time. And then I don't like giving them much credit, but John Aldridge, obviously manager at the time, must have produced a little bit of magic in the changing room, because when they came out in the second half, it was a totally different Tranmere side. And what makes it extra special as well for me, and probably us in general, is the fact that I'd say this comeback was produced or created at Everton. 1995 Cup winning hero Paul Rideout, who must have been getting on at this point.
What
Like
a
he
man.
must have, I don't know how old he was when he was at Tranmere, but he must have been getting on.
60.
He was getting on when he was at Everton. Yeah, Paul Rideout somehow manages to get himself a second half hat trick within about 20 minutes. And then another former Everton striker, Stuart Barlow, then gets brought off the bench. My recollection of Stuart Barlow was always like an unfulfilled talent. When you hear about him, he was apparently he was really quick. He was a decent finisher. He looked like he was going to be a good player at Everton, and then it just kind of never clicked into place for him. But Stuart Barlow came on and managed to sneak a fourth to put Tranmere 4-3 up at Premier League Southampton, which, when you think about it, those are the days where like those upsets kind of mattered. Now I think upsets happen in the FA Cup far too often where, I don't know, the Premier League team doesn't field a particularly strong team. A lower league team comes against them, beats them, and no one really cares. We move on. Whereas back in those days, this Tranmere team, at the end of that season, they actually ended up getting relegated. They were bottom of what is now the Championship. Southampton finished 10th in the Premier League, so you can kind of see the gap in class there. I just think when you think back at how huge that was at the time, that was a big giant killer moment for me as a kid that's always kind of stuck with me. And it might not be the headline maker that some of you have got, but for me as a kid, that was kind of the magic of the FA Cup in one game, because it just showed, especially Tranmere only being down the road, it was like a little Tranmere team made of old Everton players, a couple of young kids, like Jason Kumas played that game when he was...
Another Everton link.
And a young Clint Hill was in the squad, was in the Tranmere squad that season. I just think for them to come up against a Premier League ready team, which had Dean Richards, James Beattie played, Wayne Bridge, to come back from 3-0 down, second half is just unbelievable. And when you see the scenes in Prenton Park, it just looks boss. Before you write my pick off, I'd encourage you to go and watch the highlights on YouTube, because it really is quality. So honestly, give it a go.
I think that's a good shout to you, fair, Sean. I like the stories in it as well. And yeah, I think definitely got that giant killing kind of feel to it. And I can just imagine, like, if you were to watch it now, as I'm sure all the fans will do after you've just told them, I imagine it's probably like horrible, muddy, and just like a proper cup type kind of thing.
Do you know what the best thing is? Like, if you look back at like 7 goals, I reckon about 5 or 6 of them are just Route 1 football. You know, like lump it in the box, see what happens. Even Southampton. And you think, like, no one was playing the football that Premier League teams are playing now. Even then, Southampton were going to Tranmere and just lumping in the box. Yeah. And that's what happened with, I think, 3 of the 4 Tranmere goals. I don't imagine John Aldridge has not got the best, like, managerial brain, has he? I reckon he's probably...
All human brain.
Well, yeah. He's not particularly popular amongst us, but yeah, I reckon he just went at half time, hey, just whack it in the box and see what happens. And you know what? It worked. But it was just one of those... Bassett. But you know what? It worked for him. I mean, he ended up quitting that season. Probably didn't want the shame of getting relegated. But yeah, it was quality. And another little fact for you, which you probably won't care about, but Stuart Barlow, actually, his daughter actually does hand and nails now. And he's meant to be a really nice fella. So,
does he know Ken?
If this goes well, I'll get him on the pod.
Tranmere got to the League Cup final, didn't he, as well? Was that the year before or a couple of years before?
Yeah.
So, obviously quite a big side. I actually don't think it was a giant killer.
Was Letitia still playing?
He was, but he wasn't in the squad that day.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It does make you
think.
Like
it.
Probably talking to his water in the changes.
Did that game actually happen then?
Does make you think, Bob.
I went to watch Tranmere the other week when they played Leicester in the League Cup, and the goalkeeper who played the night I was watching them played in the League Cup final in 2000. So I wonder if that goalkeeper was also playing that day.
Do you know his name?
No. Well, I don't know, but he was obviously a young lad when they got to the cup final. I don't know that he was the first choice, but he was playing the night. If you can get them, he played against Leicester in goal in the League Cup the other week, and he was.
Was it Steve Simonson?
No, the keeper that played for Tranmere is now 52. I don't reckon it's him.
Oh,
let me check.
Yeah, but I think he must have been when he came in, but he was. So the Tranmere fan I was sat with told me anyway, but he might have just been lying and just trying to make me look a fool on keeping up appearances.
Yeah, he was pranking you, unfortunately.
He was playing
just
the
being
long game.
Yeah.
Right then, that was a good argument, Sean. I've got to give you that, very well researched. I'm going to go from one scale to the other scale. I've picked a Champions League final, and as far as I can remember, there's only been one good comeback in a Champions League final, and that was on the 26th of May, 1999. Again, I often go with the things that first come into my head, and that was something that I actually remember sitting down and watching, and I remember sort of celebrating when Manchester United came from behind to beat Bayern Munich. So I'm sure everyone is aware, unlike Sean, but I probably like Sean, sorry, I don't probably need to set the scene as much, but United set for not been done before treble in English football. So they'd already won the FA Cup and the league. He'd done that in quite a few dramatic circumstances. Obviously, and everyone remembers in the semi-final of the FA Cup, Ryan Giggs scoring last minute against Arsenal. They won the league, took them to the last day to win the league. They were getting beat at half-time. And the final against Bayern Munich was no less dramatic. Obviously, 1-0 down, and by all accounts, I don't remember the game vividly in terms of the fact we're getting absolutely battered by Bayern Munich that night. Bayern Munich hit the post, he hit the bar, he missed chance after chance. Man United were struggling, missing Keane and Scholes were both suspended. And obviously, you say, I probably don't need to explain it too more. Scored 2 goals in injury time, Sheringham equalising, with Peter Schmeichel in the box, having gone up for the corner, and then Solskjaer winning it in the last seconds with the very famous Clive Tilsley, and Solskjaer has won it, and then saying about the name on the cup. Again, I just think, just in terms of drama and memorable things, I always think when you see things like that, imagine being a Man United fan in the ground that night. Just like anyone who's been in it for a last minute winner in just any game is unbelievable. But in a cup final to win a treble, having been getting beat 1-0, it going into injury time, just absolutely incredible. So that'd be mine. Can't think of anything else to add, really. I say I might have gone pretty obvious again down that route, but it's just the first thing that sprung to my mind. Callum's going to criticise me for going obvious. I can tell already, just looking by his face.
Have you seen the Beckham documentary?
I haven't seen up to that point yet.
It does look boss, and it's not appropriate for the podcast, but there's a very good joke from Gary Neville's best man speech at the Beckham wedding related to that game. So check that out.
Yeah, and all the listeners check it out. I'm sure you'll love it.
That Netflix one will be running in soon. Make no mistake about that. But no, I think it's a good shout, Tosh. I think it's just a classic one, isn't it? And obviously, as you say, just imagine being it would have been like insane. And obviously, I think in the whole class of '92 thing, and the fact that the actual team that won it for them and the players that they had on the pitch and things like that, probably makes it even more special against sort of like the Giants kind of thing. But no, definitely a good shout. It's, yeah, as you said, probably the bigger comeback in a Champions League final. I can't really think of any others, but yeah, really, I think that's a good shout. I don't think it's maybe as obvious as you think. I think it's a good argument, that one.
I think what makes it a good comeback, which is why I rule out any others, that he actually won the game. And like normal time, you just draw, it doesn't really count, does it? So I'm ruling out Newcastle, Arsenal too. But any, as I say, in a Champions League final or not a Champions League final, that doesn't result in winning and doesn't really count, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What Tosh says there about you have to win probably rules out my suggestion.
Bob, do you want to go forward with your suggestion then, leading nicely into it?
Yeah, very professional there. So I'm going for a classic underdog story, maybe not quite as classic as Sean's. If you look at the starting lineups from that day, the so-called smaller team just had no right at all to do what they did. So they were 3-0 down up against so-called giants of European football, and the game finished 3-3. I'm of course talking about Istanbul, where Liverpool seems to think they were on the way to their first Premier League championship, but quite a few things towards the end of that season hilariously ruled them out of it. Yeah, if you look at the state of the Crystal Palace team for that game, it is just ridiculous how a team, including Suarez, who was on the way to becoming the best number 9 in the world, how they didn't put 6 or 7 past them in that game is quite incredible, really. So I think Palace got the first goal on like 68 minutes or something. I did have it up before, but I've closed the tab, unfortunately.
79.
Oh, right, okay. Thanks, Sean. Then 2 quick fire goals to have the game finish at 3-3. Then the aftermath of it was quite hilarious with Suarez and flood to tears. Then I think it was a couple of weeks later, the very, very famous Gerrard slip. So it was just a glorious end to that season, really.
It was before the slip, wasn't it? I think
What?
the slip was before it. I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I've misremembered that season then. Maybe I'm writing the Hollywood
I think
script and just having Gerrard slip and being the ceiling thing.
It's still just as funny, Bob. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the clip going in.
Do you know what's mad, though? Just looking at the lineups here. Tosh, do you remember the other week we were talking about Julian Speroni?
I do, yeah.
He played in this game.
I rest my case.
I remember him from like mid 2000s. Yeah, he still played in 2014.
But again, I think at times he wasn't the first choice, but I do remember him sort of come back in. I didn't know he played that game. I think the order it was, wasn't it, Bob, in terms of obviously Liverpool beat Man City when Gerrard says this doesn't slip, and then when they needed a point against Chelsea and then to win the others, and then they obviously got beat to Chelsea.
Right, okay.
And then City, that the same day as they got beat to Chelsea, went to Palace and won. And City had the superior goal difference. So at that time, City, they could have finished level on points. So Liverpool were 3-0 up.
At Suarez, when
they were getting the ball
Suarez,
back,
yeah.
They were thinking, if we win 8-0, and I mean, I turned it off because I thought they were going to win 8-0. I remember Mark Selby was playing Ronnie O'Sullivan in the snooker final. I remember that was the Monday night. I was watching that.
Was that
I'll tell you what I was watching.
It actually was a comeback. He did.
I'll change it from Chris Campbell to Ronnie O'Sullivan.
It was also my 25th birthday. It was, I think, a couple of days before that, because I was also obviously the same weekend that we got beat to City deliberately to let them win the league. But
the Barkley one.
Good weekend all round.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think it's quite an enjoyable suggestion again. There's no other games that finish 3-3 that spring to mind as a comeback. So I think we can allow just one 3-3 game if we're talking about good comebacks.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a good one, Bob. I didn't realise that first goal was so late. And I think, as you said, Bob, how did they not score 6 or 7? I think the reason that they ended up drawing was because they tried to score 6 or 7. I should kind of maybe allude to there. So I think the hubris of Brendan Rodgers, I think, thought that they were going to put 8 past them, and they probably should have just took the win and sort of.
When did Liverpool score the third? Has everyone got that up? That felt like it was fairly early on.
55. So they were 1-0 up at 18, and then an own goal in 53, and then Suarez on 55.
Yeah, a lot of time to score.
Yeah, I think they thought that they were going to score loads. They should have took the win. But I remember watching it. They scored the first goal. I turned off, and it was was it the James Corden do some sort of program with? It was someone to take that, either Gary Barlow or Robbie Williams or something. I remember putting that on, and then I got the notification came up that who was it who scored the first? Was it Glenn?
It's a deflected, like, was it Ward or someone
Delaney,
like that?
Yeah, right.
Delaney.
Then a double from Dwight Gale.
Dwight Gale, yeah. Dwight Gale. I think got there for clapback of the next year.
Yeah, the Everton link there is Yannick Bolasie played out of his skin.
Good Everton link, Bob. We can always trust you on one of them. Good shout, Bob.
Talking about comebacks, though, Gary Barlow.
That's my out of the box thinking. That was my suggestion. My biggest comeback.
He was a big Tory Red as well, so that's pretty apt for that.
Yeah, but what a voice.
Game.
And the second Barlow we've mentioned today.
Dreadful. Third, I did mention Ken before when he was talking about Stewart.
Yeah, because any others, Tosh? Or
I was going to say Deirdre, but I prefer that when she was Deirdre Rashid. So I'm going to go around Deirdre Barlow. Right then, enough Barlow talk. Callum, last comeback for us, please.
So, as Sean said, I've went out of the box. The remit was the best comeback in football. So, I've gone with a legendary figure of Claudio Ranieri and his comeback to the Premier League. He had a 10-year absence from the Premier League, having left Chelsea in the mid-2000s, as they sort of turned towards their sort of dominance, having been taken over by Abramovich, and Mourinho was sort of earmarked as his replacement. Ranieri left, I think, having finished second and possibly breaking records in terms of goals conceded and stuff at the time. But he left on a good note, but kind of, yeah, your job's done here. We're moving on to bigger and better things. He then went off to Italy. I think I went to Valencia, to Inter, a few different teams. Didn't do much. Flitted about a bit for over 10 years. Then I think he went to Greece. Kind of disgraced himself as Greece manager. I think they lost to the Faroe Islands, and he was subsequently sacked. And in July 2015, Leicester appointed Ranieri for his comeback. I think at the time everyone was a bit baffled and no one quite knew what they were doing. So I was looking before and there's a quote from the Guardian that he said that if Leicester wanted someone nice, they've got him. If they wanted someone to keep them in the Premier League, then they may have gone for the wrong guy. I think they were possibly famous last words, and I think we all know what happened that season. Ends up turning Leicester, who were relegation sort of for the season before. Everyone was expecting them to go down that season. Miraculously turned them around. Week by week, month by month, the dream started coming alive. And yeah, he returned after a 10-year absence, having not done much in the managerial world over that 10 years. Coming back to the Premier League almost, well, a very likeable figure, but almost disgraced in the managerial scene. And he goes and wins the Premier League in his first year of asking with Leicester City. I just think is just an absolutely incredible comeback. And someone who deserves it as well. He seems a genuinely nice guy. And yeah, to come and do that in that first season, I just think it is quite incredible. So as a comeback in football, yeah, not many people go away for that long and come back and surprise you. I think, yeah, that would have been a surprise if he'd been there for years and sort of worked his way up. But to come back and do it on that first season, I think is even more special. So yeah, my best comeback in football is Claudio Ranieri into the Premier League.
I think the better bit is that he's now had a comeback to the managerial abyss since getting sacked by Leicester as well.
King of comebacks?
Yeah, because he's not really done much. He was very cruelly sacked. Was it the season after?
Yeah, I think he only had 2 seasons there.
Yeah.
Didn't even make it through, did he? Mooney made it to he was still in the Champions League, I think, when he got sacked.
Yeah.
I don't rate him. That's at all. I just thought that was just the biggest fluke of all time. I actually think they won the league without him. I just think it was one of them things that it was just all a big load of sort of coincidence. The bigger comeback for them was probably they were pretty much down the season before, and they had the bigger run, didn't they? Had a massive run at the end of the season, showing title winning potential, I thought. But
you called it, didn't you?
I did. I think I said it. I think I've got that down somewhere. But
it's in the slush puppy book.
If we'd have done the keeping up appearances podcast back then, and we'd have been league predictions, I think I'd have got Leicester. But I just think it annoyed me because he was just rubbish, and then the next year they were rubbish again. And I think he didn't seem to know what he was doing. I don't know.
I'm annoyed by that as well.
I don't know. I maybe just annoyed me because Leicester came from nowhere to win the league, and Everton can't even win. Get to a League Cup final or something, but. Just one of them things, wasn't it? Where everything conspired together. Jamie Vardy and Mahrez were just unbelievable that year. And, so Kante came in. He'd have had nothing to do with the Kante signing. Again, it's hard to knock the achievements. It's like probably the greatest upset, isn't it? We were doing our greatest upsets.
I mean, Ranieri, that's a great comeback. To come back to the Premier League and win the league on your first go of asking is
I think
special.
When you talk about him at Chelsea as well, he had that, didn't he? Like they came second, but Arsenal were massive favourites for the Champions League that year, and he knocked them out. And then, again, I'm going off the top of my head, but I think the semi-finals were them, Monaco, Porto, and Deportivo. Definitely might have been wrong in the last one. So they'd have gone favourites for that, and he bottled it to Monaco, who at that time had a few good players. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's being my classic contrarian self that when everyone's loving him, I was trying to not like him. But yeah, I don't know. And then the next year when they sort of, even in the relegation zone, where they was just a bit mad. And again, they had a bit of a run in the Champions League. I think they got to the quarters, but yeah, no, I actually do think it's a very good shout of it. It is whatever you think of him, which I don't think very highly of him, like to come back with Leicester, as you say, I remember all them people. Why on earth? I was one of them. Why have they gone? Where have they plucked his name from? And then to win the league was pretty astonishing, really. But
yeah, no, it's comeback, isn't it? I'm not disputing his managerial skills or whatever, but just the comeback.
No, I know you mean.
Is special.
Yeah, but could he have beat Southampton in the FA Cup?
Who knows? You'll never know.
If he
knocked Everton out the next year. I remember they came to Goodison as league champions when in the FA Cup when they were in the relegation zone. They beat Everton. I think Everton beat them that year. I think your man Tom Davis scored when just after Ranieri had gone. I think of him scored an early goal. But right then, we'll wrap
next season. That'll be the comeback episode.
Tom Davis or Alan Whittle, which one?
Both. Alan Whittle as manager.
Okay, then we will wrap it up there. Another great instalment of Marooned 5. So just to recap, the obvious one of Newcastle versus Arsenal. Sean's suggestion was Tranmere versus Southampton from the FA Cup. I went with United versus Bayern. Bob, Chris Stambul, and Callum, Claudio Ranieri. Remember to go to X and vote in the poll to decide who's going to be Marooned 5 next week.
Are we mentioning mine being censored as well? Because that would have been a sure win.
No, we're absolutely not.
Okay, carry on then.
Who's doing the next bit then?
Go on, I'll do it because it's the wheel and that, isn't it?
Oh, he loves the wheel.
I do love the wheel. You love the wheel as well. Don't pretend you don't.
I do love the wheel, yeah.
Are we talking about the Michael McIntyre programme or
No, that is great.
I've started watching it. It is superb. I can't wait till I'm an expert on that.
Bob, have you switched all your lights off so everyone thinks that trick or no one's in, so they don't knock on your door for trick or treating?
I have exactly why I've done it.
Right, let's get back to it then. So it's time now that we've reviewed last week's game and put forward this week's Marooned 5. It's time to pick this week's focus game. So going into our wheel, we've got 3 games from this week's Premier League. We've got Newcastle Arsenal, Spurs Chelsea, and Sheffield United Wolves. Now that they're in, it's time to spin. Oh, I've just come up with a little catchphrase there. I like that.
There we go. I know you could rap. Well, I did, to be fair.
You did. Come on. I'm getting that. Put on a t-shirt as well. And our game this week is Newcastle against Arsenal.
That's very fitting.
I know.
Was that fixed?
You think I can fix this wheel? Look at it.
Might be a
wheel
screenshot.
The finest brains in the world have come up with this wheel. Right. Anyone got any thoughts on Newcastle Arsenal?
Obviously, it is. I mean, it probably is the biggest of the weekend. Obviously, on Monday you've got the Chelsea Tottenham, I think, but I think we think it's maybe one of the biggest of the weekend. Obviously, it was the inspiration for Marooned 5. Should be an interesting game. Both interesting teams. Lots of good players. Lots of good attackers. 2 young managers, sort of, possibly knocking heads. So yeah, I think it should be a good game.
Yeah, I think I watched most of Arsenal. Who's Arsenal players? I've just forgotten who they played.
Sheffield United.
Sheffield.
Oh no, I didn't watch that. That's a lie. So put that one on, sure. Eddie, your mate Eddie Nketiah scoring a hat-trick, Callum.
Yeah.
Correct.
Delighted to see that.
So delighted.
Yeah,
I think Newcastle as well. Obviously, drew at Wolves. I did watch a fair bit of that again. They just look a bit leggy. Newcastle have a few injuries. I think Isak's going to be injured. He's going to be missing the game. They've obviously got a few problems in defence. But again, they looked, as I say, tired. I think towards the end of that game, it looked more likely that Wolves would be sort of going towards that. I think Newcastle play tomorrow night, Wednesday, that is, against Man United in the League Cup. Might be a difficult one, but St James's Park is going to be up for that game, really. You think that's a big game. And I remember last year they played them towards the end of the season and Arsenal went there and won. So I think there'll be a bit of sort of revenge in the air for Newcastle. But should be an entertaining game. I think they're both good teams to watch. I do enjoy watching Newcastle, as you say. I think been really impressed. Callum mentioned before, Gordon. I think most of the times you watch them these days, he looks their best player. He looks the most threatening. I think Eddie Howe's getting really a lot out of him, more than we've seen at Everton, I think. And I think it'd be interesting to see him going up against maybe Ben White or something like that. I think could be an interesting matchup, that one.
Have we got any thoughts on that penalty from Newcastle Wolves?
Yeah,
terrible decision.
I've seen a few people saying, which I agreed with. When I seen it at the time, I thought it just looked like one of them penalties. Where the lads beat him to the ball, but then when you see the Taylor giving it, because it did look like one of them ones where the lad gets there first and he swipes his legs. But when you see it and when the VAR see that, it just seems mad how they can't at least say to him, go and have a look at that on the screen, because you probably didn't notice he barely touches him when he gets the ball. It's just
such a bad decision.
I just don't. We talk about like I know we met. I think every week we talk about it and the consistency, but like even just the consistency, that one seemed to be quite a quick review. And you've got like I don't know, you've seen Burnley Bournemouth from the weekend, and
Yeah.
it was 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
And I just think, well, like if you're gonna take the time, if you got it there, you're gonna take the time at least get the decision right. And the amount of times to go to the screen and like they always change their mind. I don't know why they couldn't say just see what you think there because I think you could still make an argument that it maybe was a penalty. It looks like the lad still has to jump out the way, but it just didn't. When you see it close up, it just you can see clearly doesn't make contact with him and takes a slice of the ball as well.
Yeah.
Pretty conclusive that.
I also think I've just been looking there. I didn't realise how many injuries Newcastle had. Because when you think like full strength Newcastle started the season, you think, oh well, they started, they kind of stick it with anyone. But if I looking at their injury list now, you've got like Sven Botman, you've got Isak, that Elliot Anderson, Harvey Barnes, Jacob Murphy. Like, what I mean? They're first team players, they're all out for Newcastle. I didn't realise they were in that much trouble because the bench at the weekend was pretty poor.
Tonali officially banned now.
Yeah, he got banned at the weekend, didn't he? Yeah.
There's my sign of the season gone.
Great predictions, Ash.
Yeah.
I had him as me flop, and then changed it. Should have kept it.
Oh, that's a shame. Should have put money on it.
Just making the same jokes as we made to Tony last week.
They got cut, so no one will ever know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think especially when you see like that Lascelles starting centre half Newcastle, you just think like when they were rubbish, I didn't think he was good enough for them. Now he's like, he's like the club captain. He's probably can do a job, but you think just like surely Arsenal are going to be able to expose that with the talent Arsenal have got up top. I think as Sean, I think full strength Newcastle. I think it's a really good game. I'd probably fancy Newcastle. I think just with the injuries they've got, I think, and Arsenal looking in a good space at the moment. Obviously, we say that 5-0 win again. Sheffield United aren't much to offer, I suppose, but he looked sharp. Arsenal there, he looked, Eddie looked very, very good. He is known as a bit of a flat track bully, though. I think isn't he? It'd be interesting to see if he can deliver against, in a big game.
Who Nketiah?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest. I know Callum's a big fan. I don't really rate him that much, to be fair.
I think when I've watched them in them big games, when they played Tottenham and when they played City in quite close succession, I think him and Jesus were half the problem, just that not decisive enough and not when it matters.
Yeah.
And his goals were very good the other day. Eddie Nketiah's goals, his last one particularly, that shot from outside the box, fantastic. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see because again, this is the game where you imagine it's going to be quite a close game. You'd think, will he be able to sort of do something to decide it? Give us a riposte, Callum.
No, I think he's a great number 9. I think he's a great striker. I think he's kind of got nearly all the attributes possibly. I think he presses well. Which I think is why he's obviously in Arteta's team. I think he does press well. His finishing, as he showed last week, is great. I think he just doesn't do it enough. I think there's chances that he misses. But he seems to have a bit of that bite. He'll kind of close things down. He'll put himself about. Makes good runs. I think he links up play decently, good with his feet. He's got kind of those physical attributes as well. I think he's still only fairly young as well, I think.
24.
Yeah, that's I don't think he's not got much I think he's young in terms of experience though. I think game experience, I think at that top level he's never really broke through, which is why I said this year would be his breakthrough season. And so his life was once
Is there not a reason for that he's got that lack of experience because he's not quite good enough to be Arsenal number 9?
No, because I think he is, isn't he? So I think maybe just over the years he was loaned out and stuff, and it just didn't happen for him. There was just other players in that position. I don't think he was fancied at the time. I don't think it's a case of him not being good enough because he's there and he's starting games and he started the season, and Arteta seems to fancy him. But yeah, listen, not the best in the world, but I think there's just something about him that I quite like. I think I just think he's a player that you'd like at your team. I think Everton have been crying out for a striker to do something. I think he's just the type of striker who gets things done, and is a bit all action. But yeah, listen, maybe he can carry on his form and score at the weekend.
Do we get some predictions then?
Let's do it.
Go on.
I'll go 2-1 Arsenal. Not basing that on anything. As you say, with Newcastle's injury list, can just say Arsenal just about nicking it, but St James's Park should make it interesting.
I was going to go 2-1 Arsenal. I think I'll change. I'll go a 1-1 draw. I think I'm going to go 1-1.
Can we do the same scores?
No.
No, you've not used to, did you, the week?
Yeah, you can count.
I was going to say 2-1 Arsenal. I mean, if
You're
you
all
want
a
me to
bunch
go,
of gags.
if you want me to go a bit different, I'll go.
6-0, I'll put you down for.
I'll go 3-1 Arsenal.
3-1 Arsenal.
Doesn't leave me with much here, does it?
Only every other
You
score.
can go.
Yeah.
You can go like 14-2 Newcastle if you want.
Yeah, I could, but I'm not a moron. Go on, I'll go.
14-2.
You know what? I'll go 1-0 Arsenal. I quite fancy a high scoring game here because Newcastle seem to be conceding, even against Wolves, conceding 2. And
You just said
Arsenal-
the second
so you got
lowest
1-0.
possible scoring game.
no,
there.
no.
So you
If you
fancy
let
a high one?
if you let me finish, I was saying I fancy a high scoring game, but then all of the possible options that I wanted are gone. I can't have 2-1. I can't have 3-1. So I'll just go 1. I'll go 1-0.
I'd argue with all the other scores. I don't think any of the others are high scoring apart from maybe 3-1.
Yeah, I'd
No,
agree.
no,
And
no.
I think if someone's predicting 1-0 to Arsenal, they have to do the terrible chant thing.
Go on then, Bob.
No, I didn't predict this, so it's got to be you.
No, I'm not doing it. Can't make me.
Right, come on then.
Right, Sean, get the number.
Okay, I need to
Get
come
that
up
wheel out again.
I need to come up with a little catchphrase for this one, don't I?
Just do
Okay.
the Michael McIntyre spin the wheel.
Yeah, again, no, we're trying to avoid copyright, aren't we, Bob?
Think of something that rhymes with number.
You're in a slumber.
Here's the number.
yeah. It doesn't even have to make sense, though, does it?
No, just if it rhymes, that's it.
Okay, so as always, our parameters are 50 and 450, and we're looking for somebody that's played a certain number of games for either Newcastle or Arsenal. And our our number this week is 187.
So where's that number every week?
Actually, can I throw something out there that I'm going to do a bit differently this week, and you'll probably hate me for it? There's in our loft last night, and I stumbled across this mini sticker book I had. So I've decided that I said, whichever team I get, I'm going to pick one of these.
No, you can't be doing that.
Why not? I can pick one of
You've got a
them.
list- yeah, but you've got a list of players there, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, because I definitely forgot Freddie Lundberg existed, didn't I?
Well, yeah, but you might not have remembered Freddie Lundberg before that. We're all doing it blank.
There's no stats or anything. It's just a picture of Sol Campbell. What do you want me to do?
Give me a list of Arsenal players. I'd say, oh yeah, I reckon he's about 187.
All right. I can't believe I'm getting done over here. Trying to spice it up a bit.
That's not spicing up, it's cheating.
Why have you still got that?
No, it's from
Should you not explain what it is for people who are listening and can't see?
well, yeah, so it's a mini Premier League sticker book. So a mailing sticker book from the year 2003, 2004. It was one of those where you used to get the stickers in the packs of Chewies. I remember it.
Have you got any of the Chewies?
I haven't, I'm afraid, because they would be 20 years old now.
Probably still edible.
But apparently I'm not allowed to use it.
Well, I'm going to spice it up this week. I'm going to get my little book, which has got a list of how many appearances everyone's made for Arsenal. I'm going to pick one of them.
There's no way that's the same thing.
I don't think if you got the point is it's off the top of your head, or you research it like Callum.
All right then. Sound. No fun allowed.
Eddie Lundberg for me, please. Right, so I'm having a think now.
Yeah, me too. Who's on the front cover?
I think we've had a similar number for Arsenal before, so I'll be checking no repeat guesses.
I said Van Persie, so no one's picking that.
It's still not even close, and the guess is about 50 more.
Yeah.
187, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, while you're here, let me record a little song thing. Anyone got any recommendations for comebacks? Like a singer or someone who's had a comeback?
Gary Barlow.
Leo Sayer.
Oh yeah, famously came back after Celebrity Big Brother.
Leo
Exactly.
Sayer. God.
I'll have a think.
Okay, I was going to say it needs to be quick, but Tosh is checking, so we've got ages.
Why don't you just do Busted?
Oh, it's a great shout. Yeah, go on.
I'm surprised that wasn't straight into your head.
No, it wasn't. In my head, Bob, they've never been gone.
Yeah, that's a good point. And their best comeback stuff has just been them regurgitating
Yeah, but
the greatest hit.
the album is unbelievable. Right then, so obviously it's time now to have a little think. So we're going to leave you with a song to listen to. Obviously, we're not allowed to play it on the podcast, but take the time now, go away, search for the song, and then make sure you come back. It's really important that you come back. So the song for this week is actually a band that we referenced a couple of weeks ago, who I went to see. The band obviously is Busted, and they recently came back. So we're keeping with the comeback theme of Maroon 5. They recently came back with a Greatest Hits 2.0 album where they've re-recorded all of their old songs. So I'm going to send you in their direction to listen to one of their classics called Who's David.
Underrated classic.
It is an underrated classic. So go and have a little listen. I'm sure you'll love it. Probably more than you did back in the day, because in my opinion, it's actually better than the original. But go and listen to that,
Really?
and then come back when you've got your answers, and we'll see you there. Enjoy.
You should have mentioned the Busted song as well. Features Wheatus as well, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, see, I was going to say the single version without Wheatus.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Charlie's voice is better than ever.
Yeah, it's got a good voice.
Go to there, because Todorov's on the front cover here for Portsmouth. I was hoping they were going to come up one week.
Maybe a few years down the line, Sean.
Yeah, no, that's what we should do. When we realise this is a no-go, we should try and throw it out to lower league teams. See if their fans care.
Is you ready?
Go on. Yeah, go on then.
Who's gone
lead?
first?
Go ahead, Cal.
I'll go first. Cool. So I went with a player who is currently playing. Again, I think probably played. I think he's been there for maybe 4 or 5 seasons now, which is kind of what I was banking on. I think when he first came, he was sort of kind of highly rated potential. He didn't seem to have it, but I think he then sort of cemented his place in the team. He's one of the main players now, one of the star players. Seems to be getting better every season. Yeah, again, I just got on the idea of he's probably been there for 4 or 5, which is possibly around that 180 mark. I'm going to go with Miguel Almiron.
Sounds like a reasonable one, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's probably somewhere between 150 and 200. Let's see if he's up there.
Went from a bit of a sort of laughing stock to a quite well regarded, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the Jack Grealish, famous Jack Grealish line, he's playing like Miguel Almiron. Since then, he's been fantastic. But yeah, I think started a bit slow, looking a bit weak, didn't look like a Premier League player, but then, yeah, obviously one of the main players now. So somebody who's probably played most games, doesn't seem to be injured a lot. As I say, I think probably maybe been there for 4 seasons. Yeah, we'll go with him.
Ryan, I'll step in next unless anyone's desperate to get theirs in.
Right, I've got 2, so I'll let you 2 go because I can't decide. So hopefully you'll pick one, and then I can do the other one.
Go on, then I'll go. I'm going an older player, so I'm going. And I had a couple in mind. I don't know if I should say one of them in case someone else says it. My first one I was thinking originally was Reyes. And
God rest his soul.
Yeah, no, another rest in peace. I tend to pick a lot of dead people. I'll mention them anyway. But yeah, I think he's probably on the lower end. So, but I'm not too sure. Again, I reckon he was only there maybe there 2 or 3. The one I'm going for played in a similar position, played for a fairly long time, but I think towards the end was in and out the team, was Sylvain Wiltord. I think, yeah, he scored the winner.
Thanks a lot, Tosh.
You had him?
Yeah.
For God's sake, Bob. I just thought no one would have him.
You went first, so.
Oh, yeah, but I did throw myself in there. Well, I don't know. Yeah, you had Yobo the other week, actually, so payback. Yeah, I remember him scoring the winner at Old Trafford when they won the league in 2002, and I think he was still around the Invincibles. He's probably there just a bit before, just after. So I think, like Callum says, around that 4 or 5 seasons. Problem is, I don't really know whether he had, played every game, whether he was injured. I can't remember that far back, but he was certainly about for a 4 or 5 year period. I'd think 3 or 4 years at very least. So sorry, Bob. Yeah, I'm going Wilford. You can have Reyes if you want, Bob.
No thanks. You go next, Sean. I need to have a think.
Okay. Speaking of Reyes, if you've not watched the Beckham documentary, he features heavily towards the end, and it's great.
Another plug for that. Are we on commission off Netflix or?
Right, so I'll go mine. I had two players. I was hoping Tosh was going to pick one of them, but he didn't. Seeing as I've not been allowed to use my sticker book, I've had to actually think. And again, I used the 4-5 season mark, and I don't even know if this player was there around then. I think he was about then. An Everton link. Sorry, Bob, I'm going to steal an Everton link. But I'm going to go for the current Arsenal manager, Mikel Arteta.
Seems sensible.
Yeah, I think.
Decent show.
Yeah, I've got no idea. Could be a lot. Yeah, but it seems about right for the time period.
Could be way off.
Could be way off. Buy the t-shirts.
Sounds better when you say it, Cal.
Rehearsed.
Yeah, in the CNN voice.
Right, come on then, Bob. You got another one?
Yeah, I'm going to go current player for Arsenal. Seems to be the first name on the team sheet, or one of the first anyway. Seems like a very nice lad as well. I'm going to go for Bukayo Saka.
Very interesting.
Famously doesn't miss very many games, does he? I think he
Yeah.
played every one last season, bar one maybe. I think he's
I
played.
think it's this season was the.
I think it's the first game he missed
the
in
run.
in years.
So that's why I went for him.
He's an interesting one where you think like he's probably Eddie Nketiah's probably played a few years more than him, similar to what we were saying before. But Saka's probably played maybe more games. He plays every game, doesn't he, Saka?
Because he's actually a good player, unlike Nketiah.
Bit harsh. Right then, Callum, have you got time to check, or do you want me to try and do it quickly?
Can you do it, please? Sean, do you want to do the picture now in case I do need to shoot
I
off?
was just getting it ready, just because I thought you might be going. Ready? He's ready. You're looking cool, Bob.
I'm getting my microphone out the way because I look insane.
You're looking extra Bo Burnham today.
Let's try and look at me head in.
Right, you ready? Yeah, that sound.
Do you want me to just help you check, Tosh? So do it quicker.
What you were going?
No, I've just posed for a photo.
Go on. Right, go on. I'll shoot. I'll see you later.
I need someone to conclude the podcast now.
Bob can do it.
Bob can do it. Good that guy's got a microphone, everything.
Now I'm a podcaster. I was thinking of investing in a microphone.
I would love to see you in one of them, Tosh. I'll be honest.
I've got a spare one if you want it, Tosh.
I want to buy one.
Really?
You want to just go in and buy it? So they ask, what are you using this for? And he goes, podcaster, aren't I? See you later.
Right, see you in a bit, Cal.
Bye.
I reckon I must be the slowest person to do this. Like,
yeah, I do. To be fair,
I don't know why. Every week I end up doing it. Honestly, this website, I can't find Arteta's full stats.
Great.
I'm just gonna guess his, Sean. I do you know what? I'm gonna start accusing of cheating here. These guesses are far too good.
How can I have cheated? I wanted to use that.
You've written them in.
You must have written stats in.
I've written every number.
He's got no stickers. He's just got stats.
Everyone's within about 10 at this stage. Actually, one's a bad guess.
Oh, great. Have you found Arteta's stats, have you?
There's only one player who wasn't in a sticker book, and that's a bad one. I'm calling him Crown. He's too good. I mean, you've seen how long it takes me to research. So I'd like to think that rules me out that I'm cheating.
Yeah, that is true. You're like a granddad on the computer.
It's that stupid website. Right then. The results are in. Quite a close one this week, apart from one. In fourth place, with 150 appearances to 37 out, was Mikel Arteta. Surprisingly, I thought that was quite a good guess. Yeah. Quite difficult to find the statistics, but he'd have been maybe a bit closer. He had 209 for Everton. If anyone can remember that for a few weeks' time when we do Everton. In third place, the next three were all pretty close, all less than 13. So in third place was Wiltord. He had 175, so it was 12 out. In second place was 9 out with 178, was Miguel Almiron. So this week's winner is Bob, as he fist pumps. We have got Saka. I better check that I haven't checked Louis Saha. Bukayo Saka, who's got 192, so 5 out. An extremely good guess, that one, Bob, considering it wasn't your first choice.
Thanks, Sash. Appreciate it.
Sean, every week you either get like 0 or 4, pretty much. You always see.
Never in the middle. And
Yeah.
and you've just accused us all of cheating. Give me a break.
I was accusing I'm one person in my mind of cheating. The man who was bottom but now gets within 10 every time.
Yeah, I know. It is very suspect. Do you know what it is? He's got a reputation to protect because he works in football. He can't be the one that looks stupid, so he lets me do it instead. Let's quickly then take a look at this week's leaderboard. Tosh is reigning supreme again. There's just no stopping him. He's now moved 5 points clear on 37 points. In second place, Bob has leapfrogged Sean. He's now in second on 32. And then Sean and Callum are now joint third with 31 points. Go on, Bob, are you going to wrap up?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a busted pun to put in.
Oh, it's Halloween. I'll be sleeping with the light on tonight.
I can't plagiarise. I'm Sean. Give me 2 minutes and I'll.
We're all massive loser kids.
Here's one for you, just right thinking that. Do you know, I've actually got 4 points,
one.
the least amount of times out of all of us. Got a 5, actually. I've got a 5 for getting it bang on. So I've won 3 times. Sean's won 1, 2, 3. You've won, Bob, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. It's actually Bob who gets the more inconsistent than Callum's 1, 1, 2, 3.
Right. You done, Bob?
Yeah.
Go on. I need to see.
No, sorry. I've lost me busted pun. So that wraps up another episode of the Keeping Up Appearances podcast. After my stinker last week, it's good to be back on form. Need to thank Tosh for the assist and pinching the original answer. So thank you very much, Tosh.
No problem.
So we'll be back next week with another episode. Make sure you pay attention to all the action going on this weekend and say your prayers for the Toffees in the League Cup tomorrow. And of course, make sure you vote on the poll on the artist formerly known as Twitter for the Marooned 5. That all right?
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to be gutted when I find a really good busted pun now.
I've given you loads.
I know, yeah, but
by the time it's gone out, Everton will already be out the League Cup. That's the only problem.
Yeah. Everton will have already crashed and burned out of the League Cup. Get in.
It's not called crashed and burned anymore.
I know it isn't, but that's for hardcore busted fans, isn't it?
Yeah, it is true. The OGs. Yeah,
Is that called You Said No? That one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know Paddy's a big busted fan. I went with Pad. And he told me that the reason he changed it was because it came out just before 9/11.
Everyone knows that, Sean.
Yeah. I didn't know that. And neither did Tosh. But you know what? We live and we learn. That's what I go to school for.